Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. This is coming from the test server. This is the Atlantis DLC that's dropping November the 8th. This is the first raid of 2. This is the Crown of Thorns. This is the raid that's completely underwater, technically, that we're swimming. This is where the issue comes in with the form changes. In the entirety of this raid, once you enter it, you will not be able to change armories. You will not be able to switch roles. You can't do anything. You'd have to warp back to the watchtower to change roles, to support or to DPS or to change from single target AoE armories. Right now there is 0 fixes for that as of this recording on the 31st, so I'm not sure if some temporary fix or some fix is going to happen in the future. We have to wait and see, but as of right now, you can't do any of that. In terms of the raid itself, it's not a bad raid. It's not like some groundbreaking, new stuff or anything like that. The first boss fight's interesting. It's pretty similar. I'll talk about once I get there. Actually, we're right here now, so might as well keep talking. This fight, it's very similar, or at least King Shark behaves very similar to how Atrocitus behaves, if you remember, like the OSM, where he's got a bunch of like melee attacks that'll do a lot of damage, and then he's got a bunch of attacks that'll knock you up in the air just to kind of annoy you. So it's not a fight you can melee successfully. You can stay to his back, but that's really hard, just depending on how the tank positions him. So, like, technically you can melee, or you can certainly mid-range and range it, but he's got a lot of attacks that do a lot of burst spike damage. So, just be mindful of that. In terms of his mechanics, the real large mechanic you got to watch out for is on his skull. He's going to charge and swim towards the player, and then kind of start chomping them, and they're going to take massive damage until they basically die. This attack is interruptible, so basically the big deal is to not give him immunity, because if he does that attack when he has immunity, then that player is going to die unless you heal. And you can probably put a supercharge through it, or they're going to have to spam heals, but at the same time, some healers don't pay attention to that or won't notice it. But yeah, the only way to stop that is to interrupt him, so you don't want to give him immunity for that. Besides that, there's really not much to the fight. There used to be this current that pushed everyone back to the room, but they took that out. Now there's a little bit of a current, but it didn't seem to push me back at all, so basically just this turns into a tank and bank fight. You'll see he'll spawn like a little whirlpool that'll go around. It's not as devastating as the one in TTBE, or the one that comes up in the Aquaman fight. It's going to annoy you. It's going to do some damage, but at the same time, it's not like if it hits you, you're dead basically. As you can see, I'm not sure the timestamp on it, but you'll see the whirlpool basically goes through like 4 players on the team, and it doesn't really do anything. It just sits there. So it's basically just there to annoy you. Yeah, besides that, King Shark also has this same thing as Atrocitus. He's got this like red spit melee that's going to come out. That one you can't lunge or interrupt. You can tank it, like you can just sit there and face tank the damage, but it's best just to roll out of it. Like, he's not going to chase you or move when he's doing it, so just like Atrocitus when he does the spit, just like roll back, get out of range, and then go back into it. Just be careful with your lunges. After the pushback and other stuff like that, when I'm trying to like get back closer to Shark, I lunge frequently, and then obviously if you're lunging, he could be blocking, and then he gets immunity for that his skull attack. So it's just one of those fights to be mindful, where it's just like one of those fights you really don't want to give him immunity if you can help it. Other than that, yeah, we'll keep spawning and take damage, but really it's just a straightforward, simple, tank and spang fight. So what I'll do is I'll pick this up, pick it up in the hallways, and I'll pick it up at the end to talk about the final boss fights. But I'll leave you guys to enjoy the rest of the fight here.
were not like Kormrath or the Elder Council, my husband was a hero, a man of action who protected not just Atlantis, but the entire world. If we take the throne from Wrath, I swear on Arthur's soul, the next king will follow in my husband's footsteps.
Mera is right. My brother had good intentions, despite his impetulant need to be loved.
For a couple of highborn, you two know how to throw down. I swear, as king of the Ninth Tribe, I'll aid you in removing Wrath from the throne, no matter the cost. Or Poseidon help me.
Blocks us even below the sea floor. This plan is pure folly. There is no way past it.
The crystal Calder brought me is charged with the same magic as the crown.
Of course. We can use the trident to empower the crystal and topple the crown.
No, the crystal lacks the power to take down the crown, but it can create thorn constructs. If I am right, the constructs may get us past the crown. I will use my aquamancy to split the crystal. Once it is in
Okay, so something to mention of note. The next 3 rooms that you're going to be in this raid is the exact same thing as this fight. Basically, the players in the raid have to go to those rocks and carry them and put them in, to plug those vents basically. And then the golem will summon from the alert, the spring warrior style guy. He'll walk towards the door to open it, and then you're just basically pulling ads off him. During the middle of the fight, a large current is going to come and push you back to what guards the wall. At least if you're tanking, this will work for other roles too, but the NPCs, King Shark and Mera, don't get pushed back. Same thing with Ocean Master. So if you're standing in front of them, like you see the current rushing through the caverns and gets pushed back. If you're standing in front of the NPCs, also immunity doesn't work, breakout, so don't necessarily you need to run a breakout trinket or immunity cleanse because it's not going to work anyway. But yeah, like I said, if you're standing in front of the NPCs, you won't get pushed back. So I'd certainly recommend it as the tank because if you're DPS, you're still going to be taking damage, but I guess you could. But at least the tank, you should be standing in front of the NPCs so you can keep pulling the ads when they spawn on the sides. But that's all it is. It's just ads spawn, you pull them to the center, people DPS them, people carry the rocks in, and it means to repeat for the next 3 rooms.
We have been discovered. Defend yourselves.
Pieces of roots were removed the seafloor and bring them to the crystal.
Quickly! We have been discovered! Defend yourselves! the construct to reach the ground. Excellent. We have gained access to the armory. Everything is going according to plan.
Only a fool would plan to die in a place like this. But Arthur never said you were very bright.
Murderer! Betrayer! How could you turn on Arthur? He was your friend, your king. And for what? To serve a mad tyrant?
I am the king's guard, milady. I am loyal to the king and to the throne of Atlantis. I warned Arthur that his love of the surface would cost him the throne. Now I'm warning you. Leave the way you came, or I'll lay your waterlogged bodies at the feet of King Coram Wrath. King's Guard! On my order! Attack!
Okay, so that leads us up to this final fight where we defeat Merc. This is actually the first time I'm doing this fight. The raid was bugged before, you couldn't progress through the doors because the NPCs weren't moving, so this is the first time I've actually seen this fight. And from a tanking perspective, it's a wee bit hectic. It reminds me of like Throne, the first boss technically in Hive, stuff like that, where you've got a lot of ads constantly spawning. There's no way to stop the ad spawning, at least that I'm aware of. And then you've got Merc, who comes out at some random point in the fight. I didn't really pay attention to when Merc came out, but as you can see, he's just kind of chilling there, standing. And then eventually he enters the fight as well. Right now you're fighting his like underlings, along with all the ads. So the hectic thing is you're constantly getting interrupted and stunned. As you can see, there's so much visual effects going on in the fight too that you can't really see what's going on in terms of skull attacks. I know one of the boxes have a skull where they'll put like this purple grasping hand on you and a spike wave. It's similar to Terra. It's a big purple wave. You'll see it throughout the fight. That's going to damage you, and I'm assuming the purple wave, just like how it works in Terra and other bosses, it's going to hit the group behind them. So you want to try to position it so he's facing the other direction. The other skull, I have no idea what it does. I know that I know they hurt, but I have no idea what to do or how to interrupt them or stop them, because as you can see, that it's such a mess of ads and so kind of chaotic that you can't even really focus on the bosses to interrupt them or anything like that. Like, I don't know if any of those skulls are lungeable or interruptible. And then when Merc comes out, Merc has this like charge up attack where he's going to charge you. That's I'm not sure, because I wiped a couple times in this because I just had the wrong load as fire. Like, I'm trying to obviously challenge myself as being a fire tank in this raid, just because if fire can do it, then every other tank can do it as well. So I had my wrong loadout. There's no way you can use Amazon deflection in this fight. You get knocked out of it and stunned so fast out of Amazon deflection, it's just not worth running it. And then I had Engulf on. It's going to be different for every tank, but I had Engulf on and Backdraft. I had to take Engulf off because it just wasn't help. I needed an extra actual tanking power. So there's a few deaths in here just because ads spawn way in the back, and some of the bosses get kind of sidetracked when Merc charges. So it's not going to matter as much for other tank sets, but especially if you're fire, you got to be aware of that so you can lunge out to them, hit them with Backdraft to get them back into the pile. This fight really is designed. It's not forcing, but it's really designed for two tanks. Like, one tank is supposed to take all the ads and bosses, and then one tank separates the boss. You kill him quickly because you're splitting so much damage, having 8+ ads, 3 sub bosses at the same time. So really, there's not like a whole ton of progress. That's why this fight took so long. I'm sure some of it had to do with the type of damage we had in the group. I wasn't really paying attention to what power sets they were, but at the same time, it's just going to be a long fight because there's so much splitting damage. So obviously you can solo tank it, like that's not an issue at all. Like if you can do it as fire, you can do it as any other tank. But it would be a lot faster with 2 tanks in regular. But the problem is, once again, you don't need 2 tanks for the entire of the raid, and then if a tank wants to switch for the final boss fight to make it a little bit faster, they got to warp to the watchtower because of the stupid swimming. So, once again, that problem rises its ugly head again. But in terms of the fight, it's really just surviving. That's all you're doing. As the DPS, I would hope that they would focus target at least on one of the bosses to get them dead and then kind of eliminate that. But other than that, it's really just surviving. Can't really think of anything else. You'll see me lunge around a lot. I'm just kind of lunging, hoping to get a counter and just a knockdown on some of these ads. Yeah, there it is. So I think if you're watching, I can't see the timestamp, but yeah, I do die from the charge. It says Merc's battle charge damaged me for 92,338. So obviously that's gonna hurt. But the problem is, all the other bosses, like the Warmongers and the other ones, they're doing the skulls too, so you can't really see what skull is going to be Merc because of all the visual effects and all the other ads right on top of you. So really, you can't really see it coming. That's going to be the issue. Like, if you're a player way out there on the edges, then yeah, no problem, you'll be able to see this guy charge at you. But if you're in a tank in a dog pile, if you get charged for like 100k, you're not going to see that happening. So it's going to be interesting to see how this fight plays out in Elite, what the differences are. But it's certainly a fun little challenge as a solo tank because it is a lot of survivability. It's similar to like Hive and Terror and stuff like that, where you've got a whole bunch of ads. You've got 3 bosses doing 3 separate skull attacks. As you can see, I'm taking like massive damage here. And my tank gear, I think I've got like 2 or 3 pieces of vendor gear. Other than that, it's just the 248. So it's not like I'm well geared. Plus, I only have like 290, 285, 90 something like skill points. So I'm missing a whole whack of stats as fire. So compared to what others would have on live in terms of my overall health. But yeah, it was a fun, considering how easy the raid was up until this, and they're kind of throwing like everything in the kitchen sink at you in this last fight. It's interesting, at least from that aspect. Mechanically, there's really nothing with this raid at all. Once obviously everyone gets fully geared for DPS, and it's like the fight's not really a risk to the group. It's more like, oh, if your tank survives, then you're fine. But at the same time, if you have 2 tanks in this fight, it makes it like infinitely easier. Like there's no way to possibly fail this fight if there's 2 tanks. But we'll see how it all plays out. I can certainly see the difficulty this would present in Elite, so that's interesting as well. Hopefully I get the Elite footage for you guys. I haven't had a chance to run it yet just because there's no test groups at all. But overall, my personal opinion, I still like Hive and Machine better than this raid. But I can see the novelty of it. Like, yeah, we're underwater, we're swimming, even though the swim presents other problems. But really, like the middle section gets really repetitive with, you know, doing the same thing over and over again. The King Shark fight, there's some minor annoyances, but at the same time, it's nothing really new. It's just tank and spank, and then this final fight is just a massive DPS fest, and you're just surviving as a tank. So it's obviously I still have the throne raid to show you guys as well, but this raid right now, I don't know. It's obviously it could change on being on test, and I don't want to give like a negative impression of it. But this raid is more of the same. There's no wow factor, I guess you could say, to it. But take care, guys. Enjoy this, and look forward to the next videos I bring to you guys for the test server. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. Take care.
You deserve 1,000 deaths! My entire being aches for vengeance, Merc. You betrayed and murdered your king and stole my beloved husband from me.
Betrayed, yes, milady, but murdered, I did not. Could not.
What? What are you saying?
He lives, milady. King Orin lives.
Brother?
Mira.
Rest, my love. We have a fight ahead of us.